Oh, man, I'm so glad that you are here. If you missed last week, it was a precursor to this week, but you were still going to be blessed by today. But I would encourage you to go back online and watch last week's sermon because it'll really help to set up this one. But regardless, today is your day, and I really believe that God's going to speak to you today. And so here's why I think last week was so impactful. Because we're all so incredibly dysfunctional, right? Who in here will agree with me that like you'll be bold enough in the midst of everybody to say, hey, I got some dysfunction I deal with. Like, I mean, is it embarrassing to say as your pastor, I'm like the king of dysfunction? And man, so what we decided to do, instead of denying our dysfunction and living in denial and saying, I'm not dysfunctional, we chose to say, I'm going to look at my dysfunction. I'm going to embrace it because only whenever I admit it and embrace it can I say, God, do I give this to you? And God, can you do something about this? So we began a series called This Is Me. In all my glory, God, in all of my mess, this is me. And how we are all dysfunctional, but how even the most dysfunctional, that God has really called us to a destiny. God has called us somewhere beyond where we are at. And if you look through the scriptures, I love looking through the Bible and seeing all the dysfunctional people because it gives me hope, right? I mean, so we look at some of these Old Testament people, and then we look in the New Testament at some of the disciples, and I really feel like when you look through the disciples and you read how they responded and all that, you feel like my life has some hope. You know, like I'm going to be okay because these people were dysfunctional. And it wasn't that God doesn't use dysfunctional people. He uses dysfunctional people all the time. He uses dysfunctional people that'll bring him their dysfunction and allow God to do something through their lives. So we kind of began this idea last week of dealing with the dysfunction so that we can function the way that God's created us to live. And so kind of how we said is we're dysfunctional because we've dissed God's function in our lives. And we said, God, I don't want you to do anything in my life. I've got this. This is me. It's how I am, and I can figure it out. We've tried that, right? I think a lot of us can say, it ain't going to work. It doesn't work right. We may think for a while, but it does not work. So last week we just said, hey, God, I've got this bag of dysfunctional things that I deal with, so I'm giving this to you. And we said sometimes it may be a continual everyday thing, and pick one thing. You know, like there was a whole list of things that we can talk about dysfunction that we've dealt with in our life, and really our baggage that we deal with, and it's the baggage that we carry from where we were to where we are, and if we don't deal with it, into where we're going. And we just said, God, I'm going to pick these things. I'm just going to hand them to you, and maybe sometimes tomorrow I may wake up, I'm dealing with it again. God, I continually give that to you again, and I give that to you again. And so we just continually give these things over to God. We have to do that. Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 says this. It really explains and summarizes this whole idea, I think, so incredibly well. It says, let us strip off everything that slows us down or holds us back, and especially those sins that wrap themselves so tightly around our feet and trip us up. And let us run with patience the particular race that God has before us. Keep your eyes on Jesus, our leader and our instructor. It's like, man, we got these things that are holding us back. God's got somewhere for us to go, but we're over here like, and we said, you know what? I'm fine. I don't deal with nothing. I'm not dysfunctional. I'm all good. But what God sees is like these people like this. This is what God sees in the spiritual realm. Like, I'm good, God. Give me about 10 minutes and I'm going to be there. And so we're dealing with this stuff, and it's heavy. And it weighs us down. And we sometimes decide to glaze over it, not deal with it, and say, this is me, just who I'm meant to be. But we have to deal with it. We have to deal with it. And we said last week it's the great exchange. God God exchanges our mess ups for love and his grace, and God changes our junk, and he gives us mercy and love. God changes our problems for his plan. It's a great exchange if we'll just submit unto God and let him work. So let me paint a little picture for you today, a little word picture, a little story. Anybody like story time? Maybe adults, and so you do story time, but we all like story time. So imagine this. You've got this friend. He's got a mega yacht. I'm not talking like yacht. Those are impressive. Those are, big boats. They're impressive. But I'm talking like mansion on water yacht, mega yacht, huge yacht. And so this friend of yours invites you out onto the mega yacht. Said, hey, let's take a week. Let's go on a vacation. Let's just go hang out on the mega yacht. That's what he keeps calling it, the mega yacht. And he wants you out there for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And so you sit down, you go on the yacht, and you're having the trip of a lifetime. You're eating the best food imaginable. It's like you're used to ramen, and now people are serving you. This is incredible. They're serving you hand and foot. It's awesome. The sights and the sounds are amazing. You've never seen the ocean like this before. The water is all that can be seen in every direction. But one morning, you're out on the observation deck. And you're just taking in all the sights. It's a little foggy outside, a little hard to see, and the sun is just now coming up. But you see something kind of right in front of you, cresting over the water. And as you get a little closer, you can make out it is a massive rock sticking out of the water, and you are headed straight for it, and there's no time. You can't miss it. You plunge into the rock. And then now all of a sudden you notice in a couple of minutes that it's catastrophic failure, and that it's taking on water and the ship is going down. Who would begin to panic? This awesome experience, you see no landing, or something has now punctured the hull of the ship, and you're going down. Well, you can't just jump in, though, because the waters are freezing, and they're choppy, and they're rough, and surely there'd be death if you just jump in the water. So you're trying to figure out what in the world you're going to do. Then out in the distance, you see this little boat, and it's coming towards you. And then from this little boat, you see this guy with a rope and a little anchor on the end of it, and he throws it, and it lashes on the side of the mega yacht. And so he pulls it tight. And so this man begins to tightrope. He's like dancing on the rope, and he's tightroping across. And he makes it to the observation deck where you're at. And he turns around, and he just says, hop on. I'll give you a piggyback ride across. Hop on. Just jump on. What do? Well, in that moment, what do you do? Do you say, this guy's crazy, I'm going to stay with the ship, and hopefully something's going to happen? I am not going to do that. See, kind of in reality, what has happened is this is almost exactly what Jesus has done for us. A lot of times we don't see that it's happening, but the direction that we're going and how we're living, man, without him, it's sinking. And so what Jesus has done through his death and his resurrection, he bridged the gap between where God is and where we are. He's bridged the gap, and we're in a sinking ship. It's going down. He looks at us and he says, come on, I got you. Just hop on. I got you. Just come on. And so we still stay on the ship, and we're looking around, trying to plug the hole with our finger and trying to make everything all better. But he said, hey, I'm right here. Just hop on. Just hop on. Some in here, we've jumped on, and we've just trusted Jesus, and we've allowed him to take us where he wants for us to go. Others in here, we're convinced that the ship is fine. The water is normal to be inside the ship. That capsizing motion, it's all for fun. We enjoy this. It's supposed to be this way, that I can figure this life out on my own, that I don't need any help, that this just is the way that I am, and I don't need help from anyone or anything. I can figure out what to do. I can do this. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says this, Satan, who is the god of this world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe. They are unable to see the glorious light of the good news. They don't understand this message about the glory of Christ, who is the exact likeness of God. There's sometimes we're so blinded into seeing what God is really trying to do for us, and we're still stuck in the I'm going to prove it to everybody and prove it to myself that I got this. Jesus, you just wait right there. You just go back to your little boat, and I'm gonna figure it. I don't need you. And so we're trying everything that we can to figure it out. It's going down, and my question is, will you just get on? Will you trust Jesus? So last week we started with, and will you just give some of this junk to Jesus? Will we just make some declarative statements and say, God, I give you my anger. Every day will you do that? And today I'm asking, will you take it a step further, and we'll describe this in a minute, but will you begin to trust him? Will you begin to trust him? There are some reasons, though, why we still stay where we are instead of surrendering to who he is. And there's a bunch of reasons, but I'm just going to talk about just a few for time's sake. One of those reasons is sometimes we just enjoy staying where we are and blaming others for why we're there. Instead of getting on, maybe we blame. And so it's the captain's fault. He should have seen that rock. He should have averted the danger. He's an idiot. I'm going to stay right here, and I'm going to blame him for his stupid mistake. He should not have done that to me. It's my friend's fault. He invited me along on his mega yacht. I'm so mad at him. He shouldn't have even invited me. My life was just fine the way that it was before. And then now I'm here, and then I'm on this boat and it's going down. And I'm just going to stay here and be mad about it, and I'm going to blame him with the last bubble of air that goes above the waters, and I die. I'm going to blame. I'm going to spend my life just blaming other people. It's my wife's fault for letting me go. She's never liked me anyway. She was hoping I would die. She just renewed that life insurance policy. And so I blame her. I blame everyone. It's my employer's fault the reason that everything this is happening to me. It's my coach's fault. They let me down. It's my parents' fault for not telling me I couldn't sing and I tried out for American Idol. Why didn't they just tell me? Come on, you think that sometimes when you watch the tryouts and if mama would have just loved you enough to say you're not any good, real love hurts sometimes. But we blame other people in life, and so we will be in this predicament of swirling around our same problems because we're stuck blaming people for why we're there instead of doing something about the problems that we're in. And sometimes we're in the same boat of blaming just ourselves. I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I hurt? And so we just blame while we're drowning. While we're drowning and we're dying, we're just pointing the finger at people. Well, here's what Hosea 4:4 says. This says, don't point your finger at someone else and try to pass blame. You know what? Even if it is their fault, continuing a life of just blame, you're still going to drown. It may be their fault, but you're still dead. And put it into real life perspectives, it may be somebody else's fault, the reason that you're hurt, the reason that you went through the pain that you're in. It may really be because of some bad decisions that you've made, but you can be stuck in that and live a lifeless, dead life, or you can decide that I'm not going to stuck pointing fingers and I'm going to do something different, get out of the problem that I'm in. We can look back at the garden with Adam and Eve. I think it's so funny because this dynamic that happens whenever life throws curveballs or wrong decisions are made, or we're kind of in this predicament of problems. that just like Adam and Eve, the original dysfunctional couple, they made a choice to be like God. That was the allure of Satan. If you eat this fruit, you'll be like God. And so they took a bite, and immediately, whenever God came and confronted them about that, what did they begin to do? Adam says, "Oh well, it was this lady you gave me." It's like she's just worthless. I mean, she made me do this. And then Eve was like, "Oh, it's a snake. It's the devil's fault." And I'm sure if we went around the room, the snake would have blamed God for casting him back out of heaven, and then there's just been a blame all around. And well, regardless, they were still stuck in the same predicament. So what does blame accomplish? That's the first reason I think sometimes we stay in the situation instead of surrendering to where we need to be. We stay in the dysfunction of where we're at. Second thing is, sometimes I just can't see beyond me. I just can't see beyond me. Now, that one's not up there because I didn't have that the other day. That scripture said we have blinders on, and sometimes all I can see is a room full of mirrors. All I can see is me and me and me, and I can't see beyond to where God is trying to have for me to go. I can't see beyond to what God is trying to do. All I see is right now here, the feet in front of me, the situation that I'm in. I can't see past it. I know what's best for me. All I see is me. I've got blinders on. This is just how I am. This is who I am, and I'll figure it out. We have distorted self-perception, and sometimes it's on one end of the spectrum or the other. We have this distorted end of the spectrum to say, I'm hopeless and I can't do anything, and I'm worthless and I'm no good. And we have the other end, it's like, I'm the man, I can do it all, and I don't need any help. But either way, regardless, we're drowning. Because we can't see beyond me. We can't see beyond where I'm at. We can't see the hope of where he is. We can't see beyond me. See, Jeremiah 1:5 says this, though. Before I formed you, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. The problem that we have in life is you're trying to trust our knowledge, and you have no clue what you're doing. It's like one of them babies that, just got dedicated. Today you put them in the driver's seat and you put some little extensions on their feet and you crank the car and you put it in drive. Let's just see what happens. I mean, it's not going to turn out really well. They don't know enough about the mechanisms of the device of the car to make it go right. And it's the same way with our own lives. We think that the problem is that we have is we think we know what we're doing. We know just enough to mess stuff up. Right now we're remodeling a house a little bit, and I don't know about remodeling unless I get on YouTube. YouTube has saved me in a lot of projects. I know just enough to mess stuff up. And then I have to go buy more stuff because I messed it up. But how often do we do that in our own life? Because I know just enough about living to mess my life up. Well, God is the one who created us, and guess what? He knows more about the way you should live than you do. And he's not asking you to figure everything out. He's not asking you to have all the answers. He's asking you to trust him. And only when you do that and you look beyond just you, can you see what there is supposed to be. From your dysfunction into your destiny. Whenever we would look beyond my limited ability of really just able to mess things up worse than what they already were. So if you're living as like my remodeling skills, God help us all. The house could fall in when I get done. I don't know. Pray for us as we live there. We all have different dysfunctions that we deal with. Yours is going to look different than mine. I was just born this way. It's who I am. You know, that's a mantra used by so many people nowadays. Who I am, it's the way that I was born. You may have predispositions toward different kinds of sin, but sin is sin. And until we submit to God and sin is winning, then we're sinking. We're sinking in the ship of life. And Jesus hasn't come to condemn us. He's come to rescue us. He's come to rescue us. Here's the third thing. I think the reason that we sometimes stay in the sinking ship instead of going to the other boat. We may choose not to move because of fear. I talk about fear a lot lately, but fear wins the day so many times. Fear. I can't trust a guy tight-roping on a rope across a choppy ocean. That's insane. Like, I don't know if you're like me. I'd probably just rather trust sinking and dying, than like piggybacking with somebody across a tightrope into their boat. But sometimes that's the way that we view Jesus. I can't trust him. Now, maybe you wouldn't say that because it's not etiquette and you don't do that in church because we're better than that. Well, no, brother. I trust Jesus. But do you really? Do we really trust Jesus with everything? There's some things it's easy to trust Jesus with. There's some things that just don't take much faith, but there's some of those areas in your life that we still cling on. We haven't given God control of. Man, God, I love you, but you can't have my finances. I'm not going to trust you in that. God, I love you, but I'm not going to give you my relationships because I'll give that to you someday or sometime, but I got this myself right now. I can't trust Jesus. I can't give him all the parts of my life. I'll look like less of a man if I trust Jesus with my life. What am I going to look like? People, if I start going to church and really living this thing out and people start seeing a difference, what are they going to say? I can't really do this. I can go through the motions and I make it go to church, but I can't really trust Jesus with my life. That safe boat just isn't for me. I've got this all on my own. I don't need to be helped. I don't need to be saved from anything. I have everything I need right here to make the repairs myself. I can do this. I've got this under control. I still don't know where the zipper is at. If you were here last week, I struggled finding it. I promise you on Wednesday I came up here and looked for the zipper so I wouldn't do this again. All right, so I've got all the equipment that I need to make the repairs. So I'm going to just double down on my dysfunction, and I'm just going to begin to reinvest in these things that I feel like have worked for me so far. I'm going to reinvest back in just deceiving people and to deceiving people to thinking that I know what I'm doing. And sometimes whenever we're in our dysfunction, sometimes we just lie about things that don't even need to be lied about. Anybody know something like that? You just lie. Like, why did you just lie to me? It didn't even need to be lied about. But sometimes when we're lost in our dysfunction, the product of who we become, our anger and our guilt. And so, God, I've got the materials. I've got some nails and a hammer. I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to seal the hole up. I've got everything that I need to take care of the problem that I have. So, God, I can do it all on my own. My seeking of approval. Somebody's going to tell me they care about me. Somebody is going to tell me they love me. Good job. And then that's going to fix everything. I can do this. I've got trust issues and all this. So what we do is instead of trusting Jesus, we double down on our dysfunction. We revert back to these things. So what we talked about before is these things will, if we don't deal with this junk, we don't deal with this stuff in our life, it'll weigh us down. But we easily go from being weighed down from this junk to trusting in this stuff. I trust in my anger. I know that it works. It worked for my parents. It worked for everybody else. We double down because now instead of just being weighed down, these things have our trust. Anger, control, patience. And I don't know if you look like Gollum or not whenever you do that. You're like foaming at the mouth. And sometimes if you're the other person and you're looking at the one in a dysfunctional fit, you look like Gollum. I'm just saying. And so then you begin to double down on all this stuff, and you're dealing with all your resentment issues, and who lives with massive bouts of anxiety, and we just, instead of trusting God, I'm just going to live in anxiety, and then so I become a critic of everybody and everything, and I criticize you. I'll criticize you for getting up in the morning. I'll criticize you for the way that you walk. And so these are the things that we live out, and God, I'll begin to double down on this and trust in these things. I'm good over here. I've got this stuff. Or maybe you say, I've trusted God with this, but God, there's some things I just can't get rid of. You can have most of this, but there's still some. I'm just not quite ready. I don't know how you're going to see all the. Didn't really plan the whole measuring these things with the size of this table. Forgive my unpreparedness. So I'm going to trust these few things. I don't know. Maybe this stuff isn't you. I don't know. I can't name every dysfunctional part of who we are in a bag and carry it around. It'd be way too heavy. But what is your thing that you've been leaning on instead of God? Maybe it's your ability to do things on your own. I'm the man, and I can do my own finances. I can plan life myself, and I can do things on my own. But really, we can't. The hole may be a pin-sized hole right now, but it's sinking. It's sinking. And will you get on? Will you trust God? And maybe today you can say with confidence, been holding all these things in this bag for so long, and you can agree and you can say, man, it's just weighed me down to rock bottom. I'm just at rock bottom today. I would say it's good. You're like, what a jerk. People would agree with you. But I'm not intending to be in that. Because you know what? Whenever we're at rock bottom, we can give God the ability to start building something new. Scripture teaches us that our foundation and our cornerstone is Jesus himself. There's so many things that we've allowed to become the foundation, the building blocks of our lives that we've built everything on. I'm going to try to fix everything with. And this is how I revert back to. But really, I think what it boils down to is we're just too afraid to give up this, too afraid to trust him. Because what if he fails me like someone else did? What if it doesn't work out? What if I just look like an idiot? I've been let down too many times. We have trust issues, and it carries over to Jesus. So the captain and the crew have all bailed. Your friend jumped over the side, and he's dead. Captain and the crew took the only lifeboat. And so you're still on the ship, steadily going down, turning over just a little bit. You're having to kind of like hold yourself up as you're going along the rails. And you think to yourself, this is not good. Jesus is walking right behind you. It's like, hey, there's still a little time left. Come on, hop on. Still time left. And so you make your way down to like the control room. I don't know what they call it, the place where you steer the boat. I mean, what's that? There's a name for it. But what? The wheelhouse? Is that a thing? Okay. So you make your way down to that place. And so you see all these like buttons and levers and lights lighting up, and you look at it and you're like, yeah, I can do this. And so I take my boards and I've patched all the holes that I can. I had a little 5-gallon bucket, and I've been dumping out as much water as I can. And I start pushing dials and levers or levers, whatever you want to call it. And then so I'm turning things, but I have no clue what I'm doing. I have no clue how to operate this thing. Things are starting to short out, fire starting, but you're like, I've got this. I can do it. I can do it. One time when I was young, I don't know, I think maybe somebody had a record player. I don't know if it was my mom. Somebody had a record player, and I was curious how it worked, so I took it apart. The thing disappeared. Because going back together was the challenge. Like thousands of little pieces. I'm like, that was interesting. I should have took pictures. When I try to fix things myself, I just make it worse. I make it worse. But if I can tell you anything today is that, like, 100% certainty, I know that whatever life has thrown at you, that Jesus is standing right beside you in the middle of the mess, and he's standing there and said, just hop on, come on, I got this. You don't have to do it on your own. I've got the bridge made out there. There's still time. You can get off this sinking ship. Will you trust me? Don't worry about all the blocks. I know you've relied on this thing for so long. You've relied on all the things that have hurt you, that have let you down, all the past, all the resentment, but just leave those where they're at. We can't make it with all that stuff. Will you trust me? Will you just trust me? Hop on. So last week I asked you to continually give God something, and today I'm asking you, will you take the next step and God trust you? How do you do that? See, trust is action behind your decision. So yes, last week we said we want you to make a decision in a declarative statement of God, I give you these things. And so this week, trust is saying I take a action step toward what I say that I need. God, and that's you. See, trust is the combination of faith, I believe, and obedience. Actually having enough faith to step out and do what he says. There's a story in Matthew chapter 14 where Jesus was decided that it would be a good idea to walk on water in the middle of the ocean to go meet his disciples. And so we can understand why in the scripture they were scared. They thought they saw a ghost. And so as Jesus gets closer, Peter looks out and he says, Jesus, if that's you, let me come to you. And he said, yes, it's me. Come. So Peter, he hops out of the boat onto the water, and somehow he didn't sink. He begins to walk towards Jesus, and he only began to sink whenever he took his eyes off of Jesus and started looking at his own feet again and his own predicament again. He started to sink. And then so Jesus looks at him and said, why do you have so little faith? He reaches out his hand and he picks him up. See, what Peter did is he saw the uncertain waters as more safe than the safe boat he was in. What I'm asking you to do is, will you do the same thing? I've tried my own ways. I just can't make it happen. So this week, will you commit with me to taking a physical step? It's like, I know there's a lot of reasons to stay where I'm at. There's a lot of reasons that I can come up with between fear and selfishness and all this to stay where I'm at. But would you trust Jesus enough to take a step this week? And so what are some of the areas in your life that the dysfunction is causing the most destruction? Maybe in your marriage. You're just having a hard time in your marriage. Would you have enough faith and obedience to step out and to trust Jesus? And at some point this week, would you grab your spouse's hand? Y'all take a step and pray together. Maybe it's in your finances and I couldn't never give that to God. But maybe this week, would you trust God enough to take a physical step and obey him? And maybe in that obedience, maybe it's giving. God, I will release some of this stuff. Maybe it's just God's just been telling you need to create a budget because you're making dumb decisions. But will you do something, a physical step this week to say, I will honor God with this. I'll take a physical step in that direction. So at work, you've been hating work and it's showing on your face and nobody even likes being around you anymore. Would you take a physical step this next week in obedience and in trust to say, God, I'm going to hop on and we're going to go down that tightrope, and it may be a little scary, but I'm going to take a physical step and trust you. And even though I'm angry and I'm mad at the world when I'm up there, God, I'll submit to you, and I will take a physical step, and I will choose to be an example for you in that workplace. I will choose to hush my lips and not say the things that I just feel like I could justify and say, God, but I will uplift you. I will choose that. I want you to put your own scenario in the story. What area this week can you not just say, God, I give you this, but can we physically go the next step and believe him enough to obey? Say, I will do something. I will put action behind my step. So that, God, you can take me from my dysfunction into my destiny. Because God's got somewhere for us to go. Will we just trust him? Will we trust him? Will we release these things to him? You've trusted on all these things for too long, but here's what happens. When we trust in these things, they weigh us down, and we're going to sink. Trying to patch it, or maybe whatever your situation, using these to build a wall around yourself so no one can ever hurt you again. There's a better way. Jesus has built a bridge. You close your eyes and bow your heads. I just want to pray for you. Listen, I don't know what you're going through. And maybe in the whole scope of things, you feel like right now life even looks really good. Things are great. Things haven't been better. But I can tell you this, that if you're not trusting in God and leaning on him, it's sinking. It's sinking. Today you may be saying, Pastor Eric, I can feel it. I can feel the waters rising. I know that I'm sinking. I'm too scared to trust, or I don't know if I can. I can tell you that if we'll just take a step, Jesus is waiting to meet you right there. Saying, yes, come on, like he did Peter. Yeah, hop on, I got you. Father, I pray in this room right now that as you speak to us about those moments and those places of dysfunction, of difficulty, of hurt and of pain that we've latched onto, that this week, that you, in this moment, God, reveal something to us so that this week we can live out what we've talked about, God, and take a physical step, trust you. God, all or nothing. So I know if I stay where I'm at, God, I'm sinking. And I may not know 100% all the life that you have for me, but God, I know that over there, you've got a hope and a future because your word says it, God. So I take the plunge. I trust you. I trust you enough to do something about it and have action. Your heads are still bowed. I want to ask you a question. If you're in this place and you've never trusted God initially to give your life to him, telling you, Jesus, he bridged the gap through his death on the cross and his resurrection. He bridged the gap from where we are to where God is. And he's saying, come. He's saying, will you commit to follow me? Will you give your life to me? And it starts with a prayer to say, God, forgive me. God, I give my life to you. And if you're in here in this place and you say, I'm ready today for the first time, or maybe I've wandered away, I'm ready to come back to where I need to be. Give my life to Jesus because I know that he knows better. If that's you and you say, this is the day I give my life to Christ and trust him with all of my heart, would you slip your hand up? Come on, just boldly. Well, there's hands all in the room. And so I know that your hands went up, but I want you in your own heart and in your own life to, and I'm going to pray for you in a second, to begin to take the next steps in your life. This is one single prayer, but it's simply a launching pad for a life of following Jesus. It's a launching pad for now, next, God, I begin to give you all of my life. Things are going to look different because now I trust you. Maybe you're in this place and you can just say, Pastor, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff and I just need help this week to lay those things down and to trust God with them like never before. If that's you, would you slip your hand up? I want to see your hands. I I'm going to pray for you. As I pray, if you raise your hand for the first question, I want you just to pray this prayer with me. Father, I give my heart and my life to you. Forgive me of my sin. I will follow after you with all that I am. From this day forward, God, I give my heart and my life and my all to you. Can't do this on my own. God, make me new. Know that you died and you rose again, Jesus. Thank you. God, and I pray that you would touch each and every person in here, God, in our own areas of our dysfunction, God. As we give these to you, we allow you to work. We praise you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Hey, I'm going to continue to pray for you guys. This is easy to preach about. It's more difficult to live out. I pray that God would bless you and keep you, and his face would shine upon you. And I pray that God would do incredible things in your life as you begin to trust him.
We're so honored that you have joined us for service online. Be sure to share this with someone else. Also, if you've been blessed by this ministry, we'd love to give you an opportunity to help us reach others just like you. By giving your tithes and offerings, you're creating a way for other people to experience the love and hope of Jesus. There's a link in the description box where you can go online and make a donation, or you can simply open the City Church Lufkin app and give there. Whether it's a one-time donation or a reoccurring gift, every dollar makes a difference. Be sure to join us next week as we continue with part 3 of our series, This Is Me. We'll see you back then.